Guys, what would you do if your best friend turns into a zombie? Would you take care of him or put an end to him? Answer in the comments section. In this story, the protagonist, Molly, and her boyfriend Nick are traveling to cross the border into Mexico as the outbreak of zombies has caused widespread chaos, and the city they were in has become dangerous. The couple's goal is to reach an airport that is located 50 kilometers away to meet their friend Jimmy and escape the outbreak. As they travel, Molly suddenly feels sick and Nick stops the car for her to vomit. However, after this stop, the car gets stuck in the sand and Nick is unable to contact their friend Jimmy for help due to poor signal reception. As they are stuck, they see a zombie approaching them on the road. Nick takes out his gun and starts shooting at the zombie, managing to kill it with a shot. Thinking they are now safe, the couple relaxes, but their relief is short-lived, as the zombie that Nick shot at suddenly gets up again, and he ran out of bullets. With no other options, they get back in the car, and Nick tells Molly to calm down and that the zombie will only be there for 5 minutes and then leave. But the situation did not unfold as Nick and Molly had hoped. The zombie stayed there until nightfall, and it left them wondering what to do. As they were discussing, they realized that the zombie had disappeared, leading them to believe they were free. Nick then had the idea of going back to retrieve his cell phone, which he had dropped when he pulled out his gun. They start searching for the phone until Molly finds it. But unfortunately, Nick was bitten by the zombie, and then he died. Distraught, Molly got into the car to collect her things and ran into the desert, as if her life depended on it. The next morning, Molly is lost in the middle of the desert and calls Jimmy to ask if he is still at the airport, and pleaded with him to wait for her. So, with all her belongings, Molly begins her journey on foot through the hot desert. There was a small problem though. Her period came, so she had to put on a tampon. She then checked all her supplies for the trip and saw some airplanes pass by, but they didn't seem to notice her. She continues on her way, and at night she thinks of her child who was with her sister. Suddenly she is attacked by the same zombie from before. Molly manages to escape and climbs up a high rock where the rotting corpse couldn't reach her. When she wakes up in the morning, Molly sees that the zombie is close to her, trying to bite her, and she realizes that it could smell her because of her period. Now she understands, so she comes up with the idea to throw her tampon at the zombie, with her blood on it, to distract it, and she takes the opportunity to escape. However, she hurts herself during the fall and the zombie didn't like that blood. It starts chasing her again. Molly picked up her supplies and ran away. Since the zombie was very slow, they couldn't catch up to her. They walked for long hours. Molly drank her water while making fun of the zombie that was following her steps. Her period continued and left a trail of blood, which was why the zombie wouldn't stop chasing her. But soon, she lost sight of it. Later, Molly found an abandoned house and decided to take refuge, thinking she would be safe. But her zombie companion found her again. She hid in the bathtub, and the zombie could smell her. A spider crawled up her leg, and she couldn't make any noise or it would be over. The zombie left and she could move again and escape. But again, the zombie found her, and she told him, "Come on man, stop stalking me," in an attempt to make light of the situation. But her fear and exhaustion are clear in her tone. While she walked, Molly would insult the zombie, and she gave him the nickname Short Fuse because he had a short fuse, and she would provoke him to follow her. She was getting used to the company of Short Fuse. She was losing her fear and was making conversation with him. But in one moment, Short Fuse attacked her and almost killed her at night. Molly made a fire with the company of Short Fuse, and through a message from Jimmy, she found out that the plane would leave the next morning, so she had little time to reach her destination. Then Molly continued on the path while talking about her problems with Short Fuse. She was too tired. Her water had run out, but she still didn't want to give up. She didn't want to feed him. But the desert seemed endless. She even had to go through a sandstorm that made her lose Short Fuse. She barely woke up, all buried and almost without energy. But luckily, a truck appeared and the guys saved her. They gave her water and took her to their car. Molly thought she would finally be safe, and she told them that she was on her way to the airport to escape on a plane to Mexico. But later, when she was left alone, she saw a photo of the real owners of the car, which obviously weren't those guys. Suspicious, she said. Soon she found the clothing of prisoners in the back of the car, which indicated that those guys were fugitive criminals. At that moment, the guys returned to the car and she said, "Don't worry guys, I'll just walk. I like to exercise and I love the sun burning my skin." Although they wouldn't let her go so easily, they threatened her to tell them where the airport she was headed to was located. Molly had no choice but to tell them the truth. But one of them wouldn't stay calm and the unfortunate one decided to abuse her. At that moment, Short Fuse woke up and came out of the sand to respond to the abusive guy, saving Molly. The other delinquent escaped, and Molly saw Short Fuse eating the unfortunate one. Additionally, they shared glances. How nice. Molly picked up supplies that were left in the truck and an inflatable boat with which she could take things, although she felt terrible and traumatized by the bad experience she had to live through. Short Fuse continued to follow her steps, and this time Molly decided to take it as her companion since it saved her. It had already been several days of walking through the desert and she still had a lot to go. She found some old tires and put one on her zombie so that it would take care of dragging things. Molly told her that she has a son named Chase and that her sister couldn't have children, so she let her adopt him since Molly was leading a disordered life working in bars and consuming drugs. So she considered she couldn't be a good mother and she couldn't even take care of herself. She believes that her sister said they were sure they could save themselves from the zombie apocalypse. Molly sees that she's 4 kilometers away from the airport and tells Short Fuse that separate their ways because it's slowing her down with its slow pace, and she couldn't arrive with a zombie. At that moment, military vehicles approached. Then Molly hid Short Fuse so they wouldn't see it. Some soldiers got out to check the place because they apparently saw something suspicious. Before they discover the zombie, Molly came out. They wanted to take her to safety, but the protagonist told them her destiny was near and her husband was waiting for her. So the military men decided to let her go. However, Short Fuse comes out of his hiding place. The soldiers noticed and wanted to shoot him, but Molly begged them not to. The military men thought it was her husband that had turned into a zombie, and they agreed to let them be. Molly scolds Short Fuse for not listening to her and coming out at that moment. Short Fuse gets shot in the knee by the military men, who then leave. Molly asks her zombie friend to get up, as she doesn't want to leave him there. In that instant, Short Fuse bites Molly's finger. Molly says, "You ungrateful dog." Molly sticks a rock in the wound, but it's not enough. If she doesn't do something fast, she could turn into a zombie. So, she decides to cut off her finger with a rock. She wraps her hand and asks Short Fuse to continue on the path, but the zombie can no longer walk. Molly, with her bleeding hand, refuses to abandon him and drags him on the inflatable raft. They're close to the airport, but Short Fuse can no longer continue. The zombie is no longer able to move. He's badly hurt. Molly finds his wallet and discovers that his real name is Daryl Gibson and that he had a girlfriend. Molly doesn't leave him to his fate and instead tragically ends his suffering by crushing his head with a rock. Before that, she thanks him for everything he has done for her. After that, Molly reaches the airport and finds Jimmy. They're preparing the plane to travel to Mexico. When it's ready, they start it and they're ready to leave, but Molly doesn't go with him. She decided to stay and look for her son. She called her sister's house, but no one answered. She tried one last time and her son Chase answered. The little boy tells her that he's in his room and he's alone, hiding under his bed. Molly tells him not to leave his hiding spot for any reason. She wants to drive a car, but she can't find the keys. She remembers that Jimmy told her that the driver of the car had been bitten and was locked in the warehouse with other infected. So she bravely went in and faced the rotters to find the keys. She was almost bitten, but she managed to defeat the rotters and got the car keys. She left quickly and reached the town, which was in chaos due to the zombie apocalypse. Everyone had lost control, and it was chaos. Molly takes a powerful shovel and entered her sister's house. Inside she found her son, Chase. They both hugged. She apologized for leaving him and promised to take care of him from now on as a warrior. So Molly, with her powerful shovel, will defend her son from the damn zombies. The movie ends here. If you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel.